running coach, the Malaysia SEA Games representative.
Then
Nice.
the pressure.
No pressure
on,
lah.
Huh?
But I think he wants to know. He's a running coach lah. I think he wants to know more about I think rheumatics.
Not bad lah. Never had 20 people waiting for me before.
Don't make me stress, yeah.
It's okay to share some jokes.
Bell,
Yeah.
I think you can start admitting the participants already.
Julie Teo.
Okay. Yeah, actually go live already. So you all can go to Coach actually Facebook and see whether you can see it or not. Yep.
Great.
Okay, I'm meeting everybody, okay? So,
Thanks, Belle. Thank you.
Thank you.
OK 啦。
拜登能在这样的舞台上击败特朗普吗？
这我的。妈咪准备啊。
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Ife, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So, thanks for everyone coming on time, right? To come and join, to listen to myself, Julian, and Ife Itin Ding, right, for this afternoon's webinar. Right, we'll just give a few more minutes and wait for our host, Coach SG, to kick the ball rolling. Nice, we have 30 in the group now, 11 coming in. Yeah, 40 now.
Oh, interesting. 16 plus. Okay, because Facebook Live, there are a couple of participants also. So if you are inclusive of that, Julian, do you think? Yeah, am I?
Can everyone see us, hear us?
Good afternoon, coaches. Thanks for coming for today's e-workshop on mobile applications for measuring physical performance in sports. All right, so before we proceed with the workshop, here are some housekeeping matters. Okay, for the smooth conduct of this workshop, I've muted all of you. However, you all can still use the chat box to communicate with the presenters. Yep, and also we will encourage you to switch on your videos. As for the session format, mostly presentation, but there will also be some questions where you can embed it within the presentation, which the presenters will be asking throughout this presentation. And also during the course of the workshop, if you have thought of any questions that you would like to ask the presenters, you may also type them in the chat box, or if you are viewing from Facebook, you can also ask on Facebook. Okay, so a bit of background about this workshop. Basically, the presenters are Mr. Ting Yifei and Mr. Julian Lim. They are both professionals with the qualifications and also working experience in both sports science and sports coaching. So today's presentation is really about sharing the various mobile applications that sports coaches can use when they are doing their coaching. So without further ado, we will hand over to Mr. Ting Yifei and Julian to start the presentation.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Right. Can you see my screen and hear me well now? Right. Maybe if you do, just have a thumbs up. Yifei, all right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Right. So thanks everyone, right, for taking your time on this lovely afternoon to join myself in Yifei, right, to go through this presentation on mobile applications for measuring physical performance in sports, right. So our aim, right, is really to empower the coach to really to use today's information that we're going to share for your own coaching and apply for your own sport and learning, right. Right. We really want, right, to keep this really very interactive, as well as to help you to translate, right, the sports science jargon, right, that can be sometimes quite complex, to really simplify it and make it specific for your sports. All right, so today's agenda, we're going to go through an introduction about technology and its latest utility in sports. And then we cover, right, into how we can actually utilize mobile applications, right, into the assessment. And we're going to highlight, right, these 4 measurements, right? So muscular power, maximum strength, right, movement analysis, load monitoring, and then we'll end off with a quick summary, right, and some takeaway applications. All right, so if everyone, right, you can put your answer within the chat room, right? You just want to know, right, from the 60 participants that we have over here this afternoon, right? What are the sports that you coach, right? Maybe you can just quickly type down into the chat room, right? We want to know what sports you coach, right? So for instance, my background is actually in track and field, right? So I have the IAF level 1 track and field certification, right? And I do coach some amateur athletes. And I believe Yifei, right? Yeah, you can say your AFC.
Okay, so for me, hi everyone, I'm Yifei, and I've been coaching professionally since I think 2007 in football specifically. So in football, we have something we call football fitness coach, and that is a profession that requires you to have a sports science degree and a coaching cert. Why is that so? So that you are able to tailor strength and conditioning program that is relevant to the sports of football. Yeah, and I also coach other sports such as volleyball, but particularly in strength and conditioning, tennis, running. And for some of those that you have been typing in the chat group, right, like what Julian say, it's quite important so that we want to be able to tailor today's content on the spot as much as possible, give you some relevant examples on how this mobile application can help you in add value to your coaching practice. Of course, we are not able to answer everyone's questions, but fear not, I think you can forward those questions to Chan Leong, and if you are able to do so, they will send it to us. Or if not, our contacts will be at the end of this presentation. Feel free to chat us up and we will be able to share more with you.
Right, so great. Yeah, so like my background is in track and field, right? And like I was a strength conditioning coach for many years, actually doing high performance coaching for basketball, athletics, as well as badminton. Right, so I can see, right, I can relate to many of you guys, right? A lot of you are swimming coaches, right? So welcome, right? And also can see some field-based sports like football, hockey, right, basketball. Yeah, so definitely like all these sports and events, right, require a lot of strength, power, which we'll dive in later on. Okay, right, so just a little quick introduction, right? So both physiological and anthropometric measurements are essential in sports and exercise science because they help to actually monitor and adjust workloads in training, analyze fatigue, right? Detect talents, identify weaknesses, as well as prevent injuries, right? And all the gold standard tests are actually lab-based assessments, such as the metabolic card, 3D motion capture systems, and the force plates they can see on the picture of the right over here, right? When I'm doing assessments for the Singapore Slingers, right, back in the days. All right, so all these tests, right, are really highly controlled, held in highly controlled environments. So the negative part is the accessibility to these tests, right? Most of these equipments, right, are actually only available in the university setting or the local sports institute or the hospital setting, right? So maybe the everyday coaches unable to bring in their athletes to come and have a really accurate and precise testing, right? But field tests these days, right, are really more often utilized, mainly because of what we call the ecological validity, right? If you test on the field, on the basketball court, in the soccer arena, right, that's where actually you can translate what you test to actually performance, and you can actually relate it to whether your athlete's improving, stagnant, or getting better.
Yeah.
All right. So one way, right, that coaches, right, can actually utilize field tests easily is that with the use of mobile applications, right? So the ACSM, or the American College of Sports Medicine, has actually said that mobile applications are among the top fitness trends for 2019. Right? This is actually due to the actually technological advancements in our mobile devices that we have today, right? All your latest iPhones, all your latest Android systems, all have the accelerometers and gyroscopes in them, right? The videos also have high frame rates and high screen resolutions, right?
Julian, can I interject for a while?
Yep.
So, people, so what Julian meant, right? Those gyroscope, those accelerometer, those high-speed camera that is present almost in every phone that is out there in the market. What it does, right? Like accelerometer, it can measure change in speed. Gyroscope, it can measure change in position. So all these little hardware inside, just at your palm, right? It's not accessible to everybody. So that is very good, which means that most application now, if you get the right scientists and you get the right software developer, you can actually create something that you can bring out field and very accurate. So that's what Julian is trying to say. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Right. So the positive parts is cheap, right? Easily to be purchased on the App Store, portable, right? And also really have a very user-friendly interface, right? Which does not require great expertise in back-end data processing, right? The negative part, right, is with the plethora of the apps on the App Store. You can see there's actually many apps that's available. Like for instance, if I give you an example of a heart rate, right, there's actually hundreds of apps that they can say they can accurately detect heart rates, right? But only actually a few apps have shown that they are really valid and reliable, right? So the measurements you can be ensured, right, that what you measuring are telling you the real results. Okay, right. So to illustrate, right, okay, the cost of outfitting, right, all the equipments in local sports institute, right, one force splits can come up all the way to $30,000 US, right, versus that of a mobile application that actually measures similar results or measurements, right? Okay, comes out only to maybe $15 USD, right? So you can see the community, right? The savings you can have from just using a mobile app. All right, so definitely on this call, right? We really have definitely tech savvy coaches in the house, right? So I just want to ask among the floor, you can type in your answers in the chat room. What are mobile applications that you currently use or have installed in your app, in your phone? How about Ife? What's your go-to app that you have on your phone?
Actually, for me, right, the vertical jump mobile app is the most applicable because it's cheap, first of all, and it's easy to use. And I think later on, Julian will also introduce this quite easy to use app for all of you to understand a bit more. And basically today's really takeaway for everyone is to understand that there are tons of apps outside, but what is the most applicable based on what Julian and we have used already. Yeah, and maybe you can try that out and see does it add value to your coaching practice, help you to measure your athletes' performance, because measuring athletes' performance is one way to keep athletes motivated also. You have really a good objective feedback. Yeah, so some of you, Garmin, right? Yeah, even simple application like heart rate monitor, those are performance measurements app. So another, oh, okay, good. There's this Uber Sense, previously known as Uber Sense heart technique. Great.
Great, man. Yeah, so thanks for sharing, everyone. All right, so yeah, if there's one app you have to have in your phone now, it's the Trace Together app. All right, yeah. All right, okay, right. So okay, the apps for analyzing physical performance, right? So we're going to cover these 4 parameters, right? I'll be covering the first 2, right? Muscular power and maximum strength. And Ife will be sharing with us more on today on the movement analysis and load monitoring. Okay, so muscular power is an essential ability in all sports, and the vertical jump, right? Okay, it's the main one that's being used for athletes, right? Especially in strength power sports. So vertical jump, right, helps to assess the rate of force development, analyze neuromuscular fatigue, as well, right? Okay, to actually identify force asymmetry with the aim of injury prevention, right? So the gold standard you can see over here is utilizing a force plate, right? Where previously I was testing the power abilities of the national badminton team, right? So this test on the right over here, you can see it's actually testing reactiveness of the force plate. They step off a box, touch the floor, and jump as high as possible, right? Then the pictures over here on the bottom over here indicate, right? We're doing a plyometric push-up, right? It's an indication of power for the upper body. Okay, right? So with a gold standard testing with a force plate, right? How they actually assess it is the takeoff velocity, right? You actually need a force plate to really analyze how fast the athlete is actually pushing themselves off the device. Okay. All right, so I mentioned, right, they actually can use this application called the MyJump tool to really detect the same results that you're trying to achieve, right, from measuring the vertical jump. Right, so for instance, a vertical jump, or scientifically it's called a counter movement jump. With this app, you can identify, right, the height, okay, athlete jumps, the time they take in the air, velocity, force, and power indices. Right, okay, with this app also you're able to measure, right, the drop jump test that I did earlier with the badminton athletes, okay, a test of low body reactiveness, right? You can even get results of contact time, vertical stiffness, as well as a relative strength index, right? So if you can see from this video, how it's being used, right, it's actually using the videos to identify the flight time of the jump, right? So through a slow motion recording feature of your smartphone, right, you can actually manually, okay, detect when is the takeoff and landing phases of the jump, and it gives you the overall flight time being measured, right? So the flight time of the jump is being used to calculate the eventual jump height, power of the athlete, right? So this is a really very popular app that you can take note of. And furthermore, it's confirmed widely in literature over the recent years to show really very good correlation to that of a force plate, right? You can see, okay, the numbers over here. Okay, right, so moving on to maximum strength, right? So maximum strength is a testing, right, that's often used, right, to prescribe training programs, right? And the 1RM is used very regularly, right? So if you're not familiar with what the 1 repetition max is, actually it's the heaviest weight you can lift for 1 repetition or 1 time, right? Most commonly for low body assessments, you're going to be using the back squat, right? But the 1RM, right, okay, it really depends on the athlete's lifting experience. Okay, you can see over here, okay, the track and field athletes, okay, doing the back squat exercise, right? right? If you're not an experienced athlete, right, unfortunately, you know, these things can be happening on the video on the right, okay, which not only give you inaccurate results, but may, right, injure the athlete in the process. Right. Okay, so that's a traditional way of measuring, okay, or assessing the 1 RM. Okay, but lately, right, the measurement of the speed of the barbell, right, is actually deemed the most accurate method of determining one repetition max. Right, this is actually due to the strong relationship between the load and velocity. Right, so you can see the graph over here as the load or the percentage of 1 RM increases. Right, you can see the speed of the movement actually drops, right? And there's a very nice correlation between the two indices indicating a straight line, right? So that means the heavier the movement or the heavier the load that you're trying to move, right, the lower the speed is, right? So it's really basic physics, right? Okay, and so there's this new paradigm in strength and conditioning where we call velocity-based training, right? So it's based on the systematic measurements of the barbell velocity to adjust and prescribe training intensities. So you can see on the table below over here, you can see actually each percentage of 1 RM have a specific velocity range. When you're listing something really very heavy, right, you can see the speed actually goes down to less than 0.5 meters per second. And you're training something at really very fast speed, it actually goes to get more than 1.3 meters per second. Right, so the gold standard, right, is actually using what we call a high frequency linear transducer. Right, so when I was testing the national gymnasts athletes beforehand, you can see they're actually using a device called Gym Aware. And what is, okay, invisible over here, right? Okay, actually there's like what we call a teeter, or like it's almost like a fishing line, right, attached to the rod on the athlete's back, right? So how fast the athlete jumps, right, will also eventually pull the string as fast as possible and will give you the speed of the movement, right? Okay, so how we can actually use applications to replicate this kind of testing, right? There's another app called MyLift that actually helps you to replicate and do estimations of these 6 different exercises, right? So it's the same principle as that of the MyJump tool, using, okay, the camera to actually detect, okay, the beginning and the end of the movement and give you estimations of the 1 RM. And this is actually shown, right, in the most recent paper just published June this year, right? They actually shown a very good reliability and validity between the two devices, right? You can see an expensive Gym Aware, 2,000 pounds versus the MyLift, okay, only 10 pounds, being very valid to measure, okay, the back squat exercise. All right, okay. So even with the latest phones that we have, right, the cool function that is because of the motion capture feature of our devices, right, we're able actually to integrate, okay, the latest technology of AR, augmented reality, as well as AI, artificial intelligence, right, into the softwares. Right, so for instance, the MyLift app, right, is able to trace the barbell trajectory, right? It's really something really very fanciful, right? So the picture or the video on the left of here is like my frugal attempt to do a power exercise, right, such as a Olympic. This is called a snatch exercise, right, or Olympic lift, right? So usually, right, okay, you want to obtain a really nice smooth S curve when doing kind of like modified Olympic lifts to train power, right? So this, you know, app, right, was able to trace the trajectory and even give you how far or how thick the S if, right, horizontal displacements, vertical displacements, and even the velocity at different points, right? You want to actually accelerate the movement as quickly as possible when you reach the top, so to actually to train power for the athlete. Okay, even the MyLift app, right, some functions is able to identify how deep you squat in exercise, right? So, you know, a lot of athletes, sometimes when you bring them to the gym, right, you ask them to do a half squat, they'll be like, I'm like really, you know, not putting a lot of effort, right? Then as you as a coach, right, or you as a trainer, sometimes you'll be, you know, placing a bench below them, asking them to squat down, right? So that's fine, but then it may be dangerous, especially if let's say they're lifting with really very heavy weights, right? So how to make it a lot safer, utilizing technology, right? The AI, right, system or AI system, right, within the app, right, is able to actually detect, okay, your hip height, okay, then even the knee height, right? So once the knees or once the hips, okay, pass that of the knees, right, the app will actually indicate a sound indicating a correct squat depth, right? Then it automatically tells the athlete as well as the coach, right, to train really very specifically, right? So there's many utility of this even for testing. All right, so this may resonate well with the basketball coaches. Maybe you have downloaded this app to use, right? So during a circuit breaker, right, I'm finding ways to motivate myself to exercise, right? Then I found this app, right, that really utilize AR really very well, right? So you can place objects within your screen, right, to have like almost like arcade style kind of training, right? And so anybody or any coach, right, that you have athletes in strength, power, field-based sports that require agility, change of direction, these kind of applications, right, makes the training more fun, right, as well as like you can easily integrate some tests during training. Okay, and the last one I'm going to share with you, right, is something that was just released in June also, right? Okay, so I felt that this app, right, I'm not part of the team, right, but I wish I was, right, because it really it's a game changer. I feel in how they actually able to promote, and even intensify someone to really train remotely, right? Okay, so the next video I'm going to show you is how the device works. It's really like a virtual personal trainer. Yeah, so you can see this application, right? Okay, it's like available on your laptop, your iPad or tablets, or even your iPhone to really go and maximize the use. Training on your own, right? It's like really the game changer that I feel like they can really take remote training or coaching to the next level, right? Yeah. All right. Okay, so I can pass the time on to Yifei. Okay, he'll carry on like sharing with us a little bit more, right, on the next two apps.
Hi, everyone. Yep, thanks for Julian's presentation in the first part of this online workshop. So what Julian has introduced to you basically are apps that have been validated or mobile apps that uses AR and AI to help you keep your athletes engaged remotely. Actually, that's one of our purpose of having this workshop. Because of this circuit breaker, some of us might have some troubles because we can't be on site to engage everyone. And having these mobile applications, you can actually ask the athletes to do it remotely. So for example, like me, I will ask the athlete to send in a video of themselves. I will give them some specifications like my jump tool, the application that Julian has introduced to you in the beginning. I will ask the athletes to forward to me a video setting in slow-mo so I can analyze their jump height remotely. I don't even need to be there. So just think of today's session as helping you to engage your athletes remotely. And the next question that I want to ask most of you would be, give me a moment. Let me share my screen. Okay, next question, right? I want to ask some of you. And how do you all analyze your movements? And why do you want to analyze your movements for athletes? maybe you can type some of your answers inside the comment. I want to see how you guys do it. Some of you have already told us that you use UberSense, or there are some other software that we might not be known yet. So maybe you can share with us what have you been doing. Just take a minute, you can share with us. Yeah, so for me, I coach youth athletes most of the time. And for youth athletes, there are a few ways that we can analyze the movement. You also do not want to overanalyze. I will show some examples of what I do with easy apps such as UberSense. To monitor their progress. Is it Churn Hub? Nice, visual. Yes, that is a very good answer. Visual feedback. Because for some athletes learned in multiple manners. So it can be a verbal feedback, which means the coach gives a verbal feedback. There's also visual feedback where they see themselves in action. And also they can, you can manual feedback, which means you hold them, you hold certain parts of their body to show them, for example, a basketball, right? If they are not lifting their elbows high enough, you try to try to lift them up a bit more and put up, great, put up examples of positive movements, work with, yeah, exactly, fantastic. So now, right, with a lot of app, like, okay, I can't pronounce this hard technique, but I will usually call it UberSense. For UberSense, one of my greatest difficulty in helping players understand kicking techniques would be how to create an open position. And you can see, right, from the first one, was done in January 2019. And the next photo was after 3 months of coaching. That was in March 2019. That was 3 months later. And for sure, when you give a visual feedback, the athlete will be able to understand much better what they meant by an open position. Either I can demonstrate or they can see themselves in action. So for coaches, sometimes you want to find correct movements online, and there's a lot of correct pictures you can find on scientific journals or even coaching websites that have been produced by qualified coaches to find good posture. And what Julian has also shared with me over the last few days, like we are trying to correct running forms for some athletes. There's apps also that you can shadow the correct running form and you superimpose it over your athletes. Yeah, these are simple applications that you can actually use, right, and give feedback to your athletes. Quite interesting. So you can see that this player, after 3 months, she has adopted a more open stance, and that's because of the visual feedback given. And what is the most amazing thing is you can just use your phone, bring outfield, just take a snapshot, and immediately you have feedback ready. Yeah, you don't even need to, because coaching time is so rare now. Like some of you are school coaches. If you are an elite coach, fine, we have protected time. But some of you are school coaches, we do not have enough time with the athletes and we need to do so much things. But if you have some time, bring your mobile phone, immediately you give that subjective feedback to your players and you can make a change quite quickly. Yeah. And the next one, Runmatics, is also created under the same scientists that produce my Jump 2. So Runmatics sells about for I think less than 15 Singapore dollars. And for this, previously, if you use a motion analyzer, which is inside the science lab, and I would say like most of us wouldn't have access to it. Now, you can use a 2D profile of your players and you can actually generate good feedback for your players, like how do they go up against a proper running form. So this is one of the running form done by one of my players. She's a football player, and like we said, we want to try to correct a forward lean, and from this we can actually show that she has this slight forward lean that needs to be corrected. And I think the same thing I would like to say again, this is all done over the mobile phone. You don't even need to get her to the lab. And for coaches, right, to be able to do it right at the training spot and spending about, I would say I spend about 5 minutes once you get the hang of it to do this. Whether you can have the solutions to improve certain parameters, that is another question. If you are interested to know more about how we can improve certain things, like we need to improve the forward lean of this player, yeah, you can just tell Coach SG and probably Julia and I, we can arrange for a separate session where you can offer solutions to some of the things that identify in the motion analysis. So Runmatics, you can, and one of the comments that is in the Zoom group chat, to prevent injury, Runmatics has another function where they can actually show you what the risk of injury, right, just by analyzing the runner's posture. So that's pretty good. Of course, there's a learning curve to it. I'll talk more about that later on. Okay, and for some of us, right, like maybe I can ask again, how do y'all engage your athletes in this difficult period? Now, I think we can only have groups of 5 in our training. How about the rest of the athletes? Do you all use Zoom, or do you use other teleconferencing applications? Maybe you can share with us in the group chat. I would like to know. Because the next one, when we talk about mobile applications, it's really about how we can coach them anywhere. It's not, and remotely. That's the most, yeah, oh, bad for swimming coach, right? No camera and video. Yeah, I do agree. It's quite challenging for swimming coaches. Maybe Julia and I, we can put our brains together and see what we can do to help swimming coaches. I think for swimming coaches, at this time, it's pretty difficult because the medium of practice is actually, you need to be water-based. And now, probably Julian, do you have any suggestion for swimming coaches for mobile apps?
I mean, the first thing is like like just videoing the technique underwater. You can buy a waterproof case, right? Yeah, then just go under the surface to measure, right? And there's another swimming app actually that you can download. I mean, I can't remember the name of the app like beforehand, right? But what it does is that all you need to do is that it has, like how Ife talk about, there's certain shapes that you want to create on a pool, right? And they want you to do some dry land drills and mimic the shapes, right? So you just overlay the picture, right, into the app, right? They want to make sure the athlete actually fit the same shapes that you're trying to do on land versus water. But I'll drop us a contact later on, then I'll get back to you what the application is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, we do understand your issues also as swimming coaches. Basically, the medium of practice is water-based. So how do we engage? For me, right, teleconferencing app has been a great help. I think recently, because of my work to engage the athletes remotely, we got featured on CNA. And for the, give me a moment. Okay, so one of the ways, right, we engage athletes remotely, you can use Zoom app. There are so many tools inside Zoom app actually. And for some of the athletes at this time, it's difficult to have technical coaching because they are in the confine of their home or because of the nature of the sport. So if you are just going to do general conditioning, like core exercises, upper limb strengthening or lower limb strengthening, right? We can pretty much use pointers like this, or we can use the whiteboard to tell them, give them visual feedback on what they are doing right or wrong. So this is what happened. Okay, this is in one of my sessions. When you use Zoom app, try to remember that there are tools, right, that you can use. It's not just Zoom app, I do, the athletes do. It's very different. Then it's no longer coaching. You can just do a pre-recorded video and show it to the athletes. When we are doing coaching remotely, there must be feedback given. That's the key point. Okay, and of course, I understand group size would be a concern, but as coaches, we can try to manage group size by either having multiple sessions, which we have no choice, or we can use the breakout room. So this is one of the start of the session where the athletes are having issues with the posture, and that is after the end of the session. So after showing him that video and after giving him some verbal cues, right, he's able to correct himself. So that's actually good coaching that we can actually execute on a teleconferencing platform. And we can do it remotely. You can do it over your phone. You can do it on your laptop. And how does all this, like when Julian say use my jump tool to measure, and I use this, I get the performance parameters like how far they can jump, how high they can jump, and what are the programs that I need them to do remotely, right? There's something that is called cloud computing, which it's very good now. And oops, give me a moment. So for cloud computing, it can be a simple app like a Google Drive, okay, where everybody can access. This is the coach, this is the team manager, and these are the athletes. So for me, when I use Google Drive, I have the training program on it. I have the wellness survey on it. I have the progress report on it. So this is how I can manage them right over this circuit breaker period. And even after the circuit breaker period, you can still implement this. So this is one of the programs that I given them. This is right before the circuit breaker. And this is the progress report. So I actually put down the results and I shared with the players. And then this is the program that I gave them. And during the circuit breaker, I also tell them like what I need them to do over the period. Yeah, this is one of the ways, right, that we can use mobile applications to manage them remotely. We no longer need to be on site to give them that pen and paper, you know, to tell them, hey, please, this is what you need to do. And then after that, if you break down into weeks, I can also manage their training load. So for example, I would tell the players what is the rate of perceived exertion, how they feel after each training session, and they would type it out and I can see how they progress over the week. Okay, now comes I think one of the most important part, because for Julian and I, we share quite a fair bit really. And I think one of the most important things is how we can apply all this in our practice. I think this is the most important question that everybody, hey, I've heard so much from you guys. I know there's my jump tool, there's this Google Drive, you know, what is the most important app for me? So personally, right, I feel just keep it something that is very specific to you. Okay, what is one app that can help you to measure your players' performance? One thing. So could be my jump tool. Okay, and or if you think that you need to use Uber Sense, tell them to take a video of themselves and send it to you, and then you can analyze it, and after that you can give them feedback again remotely. Yeah, or then again, how about progress report? Are you able to use Google Drive, or are you able to upload those results onto the common drive to share among your athletes? And one of the good things about this app, if you have iPhone, I'm not sure about Android, but within iPhone, right, if you have a team of coaches, for example, if you are coaching swimming and you downloaded Uber Sense, and if it's a paid app, you can actually share it up to 6 of your coaches. So it makes the cost even more economical. Yeah. So one team of coaches can actually have, one app you can actually share among 6 coaches. That's pretty good. And in summary, what we want to introduce to you today is, because before the start of the session, actually one of the coaches did ask us, like, how do we get to know all these apps? How do we find out about all this? I think it's because Julia and I, we find that we can't get those expensive laboratory equipment out into the field, and we really want to find something that's more portable, something that's more cheaper. And understanding how powerful our mobile phones are nowadays with AR, with the processors inside, there's bound to be scientists and programmers, right? They can create similar equipment. They can carry out laboratory testing. And that's how we find out about all these apps. And can save you cost, that's the most important, and really give you good feedback for your athletes. And lastly, in this period, it's very important to motivate them. Like, for example, my volleyball players, we still need to know how high they are jumping in this period, whether they have regressed, or we want to know their baseline. So we can give them a program, right, where they can do on their own at home, or even in schools in manageable small groups. And then after 1 month, we can check if this remote program does help, you see. And then you can have this progress report even for administrator or for a paymaster, because at the end of the day, we are employed by the school or by the association. You want some progress report to give. And this remote app can help you to create those reports at a fraction of the cost. Yes.
If you can chime in the last slide, you can go back. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So all these apps that we share today, right? Like really, like I was mentioning, the motivation athlete, especially in remote training, right? It's really very important, right? So like some of the apps like the home court that has like integration of AI, AR, gamifying, right? Like training is very important to motivate the athlete, right? As all our coaches know, right? To get the buy-in and give them for them to give their best. Right, imagine you're conducting a training online, right? Okay, without all these tools, right, it's really hard to really motivate them to give their best, right? So even a home court, right, it gives you like a score, right? It actually gives you like a ladder, right, or even like a a championship table that actually help them to really motivate the athlete to really execute their best for training, right? And furthermore, also like all these applications, right, due to current climates, right, we're not able to have access to the field, right, or to access to a big group of athletes, right? Like how Ife mentioned earlier, right? Okay, all these apps, right, you can actually ask the athletes to submit videos of their performance, be it a skill, be it a vertical jump, right? Then you can actually use all this, right, for you as a coach, right, to analyze the technique, to analyze the performance, and really, give great feedback to the athlete, even if it's you're unable to see them in person or many miles away from them, right? So remote coaching is something that is a new norm for all of us, right? They really need to embrace, and something that's not going to go away, right? Yeah. So it's something that we need to really upskill ourselves, and really wanted to really spend this time to really share all this information to you, right? And remote coaching is something that is easily uptaken for any coach, right? The apps are easily available, affordable, right? So there's the barrier of entry is really not high. Yep, that's my sharing. Yeah.
And in summary, like we want to say is really, if you think that you want to know more about how each of these mobile applications, right, can help you specifically, like for example, my Jump 2. So how do I use this specifically? Because there's a learning curve to it also. It takes some time for Julia and I to figure out how to use it, because as much as it's simple, there's still some learning that needs to be taken place. And I do understand that some of us are sport coaches, and we might not major in sports science in our university days. So some of these apps, there's a bit of a technical component to it, but you can still hit us up on our. So this
maybe if you, take a picture of this slide, and guys.
Yeah, correct. Take a picture of these slides.
Very important. Like most of the applications are either really very cheap or even free, or on a freemium model. Like a lot of apps now are on this kind of model. So it's good to even test it out, play around, see whether it works well for you, for your sport, for your setting, for your coaching, right? And like definitely take one and implement in your setting, in your coaching setting.
And these are our contacts. So you can either email us or follow us on Instagram. And for specific questions, right, regarding each of these app, do let us know what you need to know, and like, how do I use my Jump 2? Like when Julian measure, right, barbell velocity, what is it? How, as a coach, how can I implement it? Because the implementation part is quite lengthy. Today, what we really want to do is to give everyone an idea that, hey, remote coaching, right, could be done with the help of mobile application and good mobile hardware, which everybody should, I think most of us will have access to it. Yeah, so this is what we really want to introduce to everyone today. And for the implementation part, we welcome you guys to email us or to chat us up on Instagram, so we can actually share more with you. And if not, we will proceed to the Q&A session.
Wait,
yes.
Okay, can you go to the slide before that?
Yes, can.
Yeah, okay, so thanks to Ife and Julian for sharing. So we have curated just a couple of questions for both of you. So the first one is, okay, understand that there's this Q Swim for swimming. So are there any other apps for swimming and triathlon that you know of? Any like cost-effective and yet useful apps? This was one of the questions that we pick up on the Coach SG Facebook.
Maybe if you just want to share on your the run, you know, you were analyzing the running.
Yeah, correct. Let me go back to it. So for swimming, right, we have to let us go and find our resources unless Julian has something on mind already. For running, I would find that you use Runmatics. It's not bad, yeah, but most importantly, we need to understand how we can correct those forms, because Runmatics, you are able to break down the running form of the runner into very simple and understandable diagrams that you can actually start correcting frame by frame. There's the toe off part, there's the power stance part. If you are able to correct those forms, then I would recommend Runmatics to be the best for you. If not, I would say I think you can just try it out. Yeah, you can check out. I would type in the group chat Runmatics, right? You can go and look at this LT's LT's running. Yep. Okay, once you get the Runmatics form, you can go and look at this LT's running, and they will actually cue you. They will give you an idea, right? Kilogram. They give you an idea on what is a good form to do. Okay, I've shared the link on the chat. Have a look at it. Yeah.
So mainly it's like I guess it's also sorry.
Yeah.
Carry on first.
Okay. So for the Runmatics, you can look at it with a kilogram, and you can just take it out 6 frames. Then you compare with whatever is recommended on the kilogram methods for the LT's website. Yeah. Oh yes, Julian.
Yeah. So like I think the swimming question was because I answered it within the Zoom meeting, right? So you can actually use an app for swimming specifically called qswim.co, right? So if you Google qswim.co, right? So it's an app to actually analyze like dry land drills, right? That you can do for swimming, right? So it's like I haven't really explored the application really very well, but it's highly recommended by a lot of swimming coaches, like internationally, right? To just analyze swimming technique on land. Right? And so check that out.
Okay, thanks Ife and Julian. So one last question would be, okay, I understand that quite a few apps has been presented in this workshop. So what are their range of pricing like? Are any of them free, or all of them come with a cost, and like in what kind of range? Like per month or per download, or what has been your experience?
I'll answer that so that you know that slide. Maybe if you can go to the slide where I answer the question. So most of the apps, right, are really very cheap, right? So it's like a USD $10 and below, right? And like some of the applications, right, are like most apps these days are based on a freemium model, right? They give you like basic functions, right? Then after you upgrade it to pay a little bit more, like just for one-time fee to get a full fledged of the functions of the applications, right? Yeah, so that's mainly the cost of the app. So if you think of it, it's a really very low investment for very big returns.
Okay, thanks, Julian. We just have another question that pop up. Any apps for tennis techniques?
If you play tennis?
I used to coach tennis player in their specific strength condition, but I don't coach them in their technique. Have you tried Uber Sense? Like how I use Uber Sense to train my football players' technique, because basically I'm certified as a football coach. Then I'm able to correct them, and I'm able to make sure that they are executing it in the right form. So probably the Uber Sense will be pretty good, because you can, if there's a certain angle, right, that you want your tennis player to be in when they serve or do a forehand, then yeah, you can do it. But I would say these are more for, I think technical analysis would be more for mature players. And at a younger age, right, like I would say 12 to 14, you really have to give them a lot of, you have to demonstrate to them visually. You have to show them and let them discover it on their own to try to, or even set constraints in the environment so that they can execute the right technique. When you give them a video analysis, right, for young athletes, they will not really understand. So for me, I will use UberSense to tell them about technical correction. Yeah.
Okay,
How do you
thanks.
pronounce Hoodle technique? Hood technique, is it? I can't really get the hang of it. Yeah. Thanks, Val.
Okay, thanks Ife and Julian. So I'll be taking over the last part of the presentation. Yep. All right, coaches, thanks for participating in today's workshop. So if you have any feedback, please access it via the QR code or the link. So after you have assessed, you have provided your feedback, you should be able to receive an email stating the title of today's e-workshop and also the number of CC hours awarded. Yeah, so I'll pause the slide here for you to provide your scan the QR code to provide your feedback.
Sorry, Sanyong, I'm not sure whether the slide is on.
Huh? Oh, man.
Okay, let me see. I stop share first.
Ah,
Now
you
you can,
stop
yeah.
first. Now got it already. Correct.
You see the QR code already? Can I? Okay. Yep.
Yep.
All right, while you are providing your feedback, just want to also share with all of you the list of e-workshops next week. Okay, so Motivational Monday is off, but the workshop on the 3-dimensional coach is on. So basically, it is about what coaches can do to coach their athletes more holistically in terms of body, mind, and spirit. So it's on next Wednesday, 10 to 11:30. And be sure to follow us also on Coach SG, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Okay, we would also like to share that we have these two useful links for sports coaches. Yeah, on the left is the coaching learning resources. Basically, we have put up these links to the past e-workshops, videos, presentation decks, and also other documents such as the Q&As with the participants. Yeah, so and also some useful these guides for e-coaching. And on the right, basically, is the Active SG Circle this website. So basically, it's an open marketplace concept for coaches to post their profile and also to list their services, their online classes and stuff like that. And so if you have no more questions for the presenters, thanks for participating in today's workshop. I wish you stay safe, stay healthy, and stay strong. And of course, if you have any more questions for the presenters, you may stay back. Otherwise, you may leave the e-workshop. Thank you very much.
Is Michelle still around? I think there's a question from Michelle. Yeah. Michelle was saying that not everybody owns a smartphone like the minor or elderly students. So for me, I also face this issue also. Like for the students, when I ask them to send me a slow-mo video, right? Because now I think you need a good phone to have that feature. I will ask them to partner up with one of their friends. Yeah, I will ask them to team up and then to ask their friend to help them do it.